You know, I think the craziest thing that this state of play has done is revealed to me just how many people genuinely don't like video games. Not to mention the fact that there is no real tangible way to actively please everybody, no matter how hard you try. This state of play was easily one of the most stacked shows I have seen in quite some time. They had a game for literally everyone. Every singular reveal was awesome. Every bit of gameplay was dope. Even a lot of the things I didn't really gravitate towards all had some kind of really cool thing going on. And all I can think about is the weirdly, largely negative reaction to the state of play. I don't know what people are expecting. I get that there were certain individuals who were on the fence and we're talking about like trying to see if there was something that Sony was going to bring to the table, and Sony did bring stuff. And yes, we did get a small teaser for Ghost of Yote's gameplay deep dive in July, which is probably going to have its own state of play dedicated to it for about another additional 20 to 30 minutes. But as a sort of appetizer to what potentially could happen with SGF, this is probably one of the best things I have seen in a very long time from a state of play. It had something for literally everyone. Or it could just be the fact that I have an absolutely patrician taste and enjoyed almost an overwhelming majority of what I saw. I don't know. That's clearly not the truth, but I just think it's so weird. You got motherfuckers like Dreamcast guy rolling around and pulling shit like this with these completely whack-ass takes and putting it all over the internet, and just, it is so frustrating on every level to see motherfuckers like this just continue down this pipeline and talk about how gaming is dead because you didn't get your one fucking reveal that you were... Some of these people were like actually thinking they were gonna get a Bloodborne reveal. Guys, hate to tell you this, if Bloodborne shows up in any capacity, I will 100% eat my fucking shoes, but it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna fucking happen. Sony doesn't like money apparently enough, which is not entirely the case, which we will get into a little later. But regardless, I think that yes, while the first party showing was a little weak on this side of State of Play, in terms of all the really cool third party stuff that does come with some exclusives as well, this was awesome. And I want to get into a couple of the games. I want to highlight a couple of the games that I really walked away from and I'm very happy with. It is so cool to see Mizuguchi-san finally come back and do something else. I have not played the Tetris game he worked on. I wanted to, but just never got around to it. So him putting that same kind of amazing flair and energy and all this awesome art that he and his team work on consistently into something like Lumines, which is, by the way, one of my favorite puzzle games of all time. I fucking love the original Lumines. I spent countless hours just trying to get to the highest levels on that fucking thing. It was fantastic. It's a dream come true for me personally. I am so excited for this game. I know that this is definitely one of the games that so many people probably kind of tuned out of, and I'm kind of happy that they did it first and didn't end on it or anything like that, because it is absolutely, for me, a banger to start out with. But I digress. Yeah, I just can't believe that Pragmato is real. This is one of those game reveals that makes me think, hey, maybe Capcom, somewhere in, the executive board, someone remembers deep down and they might bring that back. I always think it's a funny joke that everyone always talks about every single time. It's oh yeah, Pragmata's real, by the way. It's totally got some stuff going on. And even they are in on the joke when you see at the end of the trailer, oh haha, XD, it is real, it's coming 2026, which at this point, I'm not entirely sure about, but we finally did get more of a genuine gameplay reveal, and it had a dash, and you use a gun. I'm pretty much in. I don't need anything else. I'm very curious as to see how the writing is going to go down when you name the silly AI robot following you Diana. You are raising every immediate death flag in the area. That is just par for the course. And yeah, I can't wait to see what else they got going on. Isn't it funny how someone can have such a unique style, a unique way of making something, that you can see it in an absolute instant? This is absolutely one of my favorite trailers, one of my highlights of the show. Romeo is a Dead Man. Oh god, after playing No More Heroes 3 and not really liking it as much as I wanted to, I kind of felt like maybe Suda was just been a little tired lately. He just hasn't really been bringing the oomph, right? I like Travis Strikes Back. I like a lot of his stuff on No More Heroes, a lot of the stuff that he personally directs. But there was just something kind of lacking. It definitely feels like, for the most part, he wanted to move on and create something new, and Romeo is a Dead Man is that new thing, and it looks incredible. I am all on board, and not to mention the fact that it actually looks like it has a combat system that is not only functional, but fun. And I know a lot of people are probably going to have a really big problem with me saying that, but for the most part, a lot of Suda games kind of control like dog shit and don't really play very well. But I love them anyway because of the sheer amount of lunacy that it takes to just put what these ideas are out into the universe and convince someone like EA and other people to continue to give you money to continue to pump out what are basically just grindhouse video games. This is an incredible concept. I love everything about this. There's this piece of key art that is released to it that is now my new PC background. It is so beautiful. I could not be more excited for this game. I want to know more. I want to play a demo. I want to get my hands all over this fucking title. I'm so pumped. You know what's really funny about this one? I was streaming my reaction to it live, and Caliber, that little bitch, he was the first one to basically call out. He was like, oh, give this a year and Phil will find a way to be negative about this Silent Hill release, which I don't think I will. I will say that, you know, the gameplay, as far as the combat goes, does look a little strangely muted in some ways, but I just think it's because of how, you know, demoing things is incredibly hard, no matter who is doing it, unless you're going through like a true gameplay deep dive. I love everything about this. I love the atmosphere. I love the fact that you go to the Steam page and the disclaimer is like a mile wide with tons of different trigger warnings on it. I like the idea that this is probably going to be one of the most intense Silent Hill games we've had in a very long time. And while I'm not really familiar with his work, the guy who wrote Ryu F, I think I forget what his name is. The guy who wrote Higurashi no Nako Koroni, that everybody really, really fucking loves. He's apparently a fantastic author, and he will knock this out of the park as far as I'm concerned. I do know that there is a lot of people who are apprehensive about the idea of Silent Hill taking place outside of a Midwestern town that is Silent Hill. But honestly, if you want to grow the franchise into more and in cooler ways, I think Silent Hill being pretty much an overall state of mind that sort of transcends the boundaries of where it's at, I think is a really fantastic way to go about it. It still remains to be seen whether or not that's the right direction. We're gonna definitely be able to get our hands on it in September, but for right now, there is nothing here that is like popping out to me as anything that's like immediately distressing or it's giving me any more worry. The main reason why I was so shitty on Silent Hill 2 was because Silent Hill 2 was an established game, and it was a game that held a lot. Listen, you just can't fuck up perfection for the most part, and that game, to me, was one of the perfect survival horror games of its era. And this one 100% looks like it aims to try to kind of bring that feeling into the modern era, and I'm so excited for it. It is a different vibe, a different country. It's gonna be fucking sick. I genuinely hope it's going to be dope. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of games here that I've played before but never got around to finishing or even dedicated a whole lot of time to. Bloodstained is 100% one of those games. I am a huge fan of Metroidvanias. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of my favorite games of all time. That game is fantastic, and to see Iga and his team at the highest form of their art here is fantastic. I'm wondering if there's going to be a co-op game. I haven't looked into it too much. The implication seems to be some sort of cooperative or multiplayer nature, which would 100% blow the doors off of this. I loved Harmony of Despair. I believe that's the weirdo Xbox Live Arcade Castlevania multiplayer game that came out ages ago that I kind of hope that Konami turns around and actually just re-releases just for the PC, because they are doing a bunch of different collections for a lot of their older franchises. Regardless, this game looks incredible. I love everything about its vibe, everything about its aesthetic, and this is making me want to go back and actually give some time over to Bloodstained and kind of, you know, see how that goes from start to finish. So yeah. So there are like 2 or 3 people in our stream Discord who are absolute marks for Digimon. I myself have only played Cyber Sleuth a little bit and enjoyed it for what it was, but never really got around to it because I think it came out at a time where some other games that I was really excited for caught my attention, and I just never got back to it. I'm also not really the biggest fan of Monster Tamer games, but if there was going to be a game I'd try to, you know, throw my hat into the arena to try out again, this is 100% it. I was already kind of on the fence with this one. I looked at it before and I was like, it looks okay. Well, during the initial reveal trailer, I think sometime last year or the year before, I forget when it was. But man, that art style, everything I saw going on in the trailer really jumped out at me and kind of like grabbed me. And I was like, okay, fine. You know what? Fine. You got me. I'm excited. Kind of remains to be seen what the gameplay is. I know it's more of like a traditional turn-based JRPG, monster tamer kind of affair. I saw little bits and pieces of it in the trailer. It looks cool. It looks like the one game I will actually turn around and give a shot, and I do kind of like the more mature vibe going on. It's definitely not going to be rated mature, but like actually seeing, like, I kind of wish that Pokemon would do something similar, to actually adopt stories outside of the traditional, hey, we're just having a good time and becoming Pokemon trainers. It'd actually be really cool to see them take on a more like teen-centric kind of thing where, you know, maybe you're a cop, like trying to do like investigate things, or maybe there's some other stuff going on, like mercenaries. I don't know. It's just something weird and out there that isn't just the same old, you're a fucking 5th grader who's been given exclusive access to the world, $50 in your pocket, and a Pokeball that holds power of a monster that can literally summon the elements, and told to go off and just be a man. I don't know what the fuck Pokemon is even about anymore. That world is so weird. Regardless, this game looks awesome. I'm gonna give it a shot. Yeah, this is another one. I know this is gonna be a cardinal sin for a lot of people. Final Fantasy Tactics was a game that just kind of flew by me. I was really, back in the day as a kid, more so a fan of the mainline franchise and just never into tactics games, let alone strategy games as a whole. But I think as I've gotten older, I actually have more of a fondness for these titles. I tried a little bit of the, was it the Battle Ogre? I'm blanking on the name right now. I'll probably have like a little thing here that says this is what the name of that game is. That game was really fucking cool. And as I've gotten older, I've had, like I said, I have more of an appreciation for these titles. So I'm very glad I not only get to genuinely go back and play this game with the original intent, just by having both the original version, but also a much more modernized, enhanced version that comes with like full voice acting and probably a lot of like different upgrades to game elements. And it's going to be so cool to see the juxtaposition between the two copies essentially together. I think that this is one of the raddest ideas, and I think honestly this is how remakes, if you're going to do these kind of like, you know, just essentially HD remasters of games, this is how it should be. You should be able to present the original version of the game in its entirety with no changes whatsoever, and then also have the enhanced version and let people go back and forth. And it would do great for preservation. It would do great for kind of like these, you know, really, you know, awesome, just see the comparison to see, you know, whether or not we fucked it up in the enhanced version or whether or not like the older one really needed these changes. It's just a cool idea. And I kind of wish that a lot of people who were doing these remasters would sort of take that into account and approach it from this angle as well. So very much looking forward to Final Fantasy Tactics. Can't wait to see more on it. Yeah, special shout outs to Hirogami. I didn't really get too much of this. A lot of people were kind of talking over it when I was reacting to it. And I hate to just kind of put this out there because I know a lot of people, when they see how one piece of media that's really popular does a thing, the animation style is evocative to me of Spider-Verse. And I really like that. I think they call it animating on the 2s as opposed to the 1s or whatever it is. But I really like a lot of this vibe going on. It actually kind of feels like Tunic a lot. If you guys are familiar with Tunic at all, it's this sort of like really cool original Zelda-inspired action game that's very neat and it has I love, one of the coolest things about it is like this little esoteric game menu that teaches you how to play it, but it's written in a different language, so it sort of evokes the same feeling of like importing a game back in the day and putting it into a console and just being like, not being able to figure things out, but just kind of like using context clues. This seems like a section more about Tunic more than anything. Go play Tunic. Tunic is really fantastic. Hirogami looks just as fantastic. I'm very excited to see it. Oh god, okay. Here's the thing. I was kind of on the fence about Metal Gear Solid 3. I'll be entirely honest. It looks fantastic. I think Konami has done a very spectacular job of bringing this game back. I think they've done a great job. They really have. Like, I have to call out to it. Now that they don't have access to the Decima engine, as it's now known, through Kojima Productions, them being able to recreate the world within Unreal Engine 5 and do such a spectacular job at it, it made me, at the very least, appreciate what was going on, but there was always something that kind of put like a really bad taste in my mouth. Like, just the concept of them sort of, I remember watching that stream where they had initially revealed gameplay for it, and they called out to Kojima like an ex hitting them up at the dead of night, like, hey, just thinking of you, wondering what you're up to, type shit. Like, it's so weird, man. They really did not need to get rid of him, and yet here we are. But regardless, I think unfortunately now that they haven't officially revealed it, but there is a massive implication here that for one reason or another, somehow MGO is back. That's what I got from the final bit of the trailer. If MGO 3 is back in its entirety, I am going to lose my shit. I have so many memories with the original MGO. You do not understand. I was one of the only people on my block that had the audacity to buy the network adapter for the PS2, shove it in the back, and I was the only one playing games like the Ark the Lad multiplayer game, the original Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy 11, and then this, MGO. I played a fuck ton of MGO. I was terrible at it, mind you, but I remember this amazing community of players that was being created from it, and I was a little too young to really actively participate myself, but it was so cool playing that game and seeing the community that was being built around it and just trying to learn the ins and outs of this really insane game. And just, God, if MGO is back on everything, if it's like a cross-play affair too, I'm gonna lose my shit, dog. I can't. Anyways, unfortunately, they got my ass. I'm 100% purchasing a copy of Metal Gear Solid 3. They can't stop me. Okay, so Neo 3, another game I really liked. 1, loved it, never beat it. 2, loved it, never beat it. And 3, possibly will be another loved it, never beat it. There's a demo that came out sometime today. I wanted to get my hands on it and play because I do have a PS5 for it, but I figured I might wait for the PC version to see if that actually runs. Because I do know that, unfortunately, Koei Tecmo has a really bad track record with PC versions, so it'd be nice to actually see, you know, hopefully they have someone, they're working with someone to release a viable, really good PC version of Neo 3. I kind of like that they've reworked the concept of style switching or class switching from Strangers of Paradise into Neo 3 as well, and the ability to switch between samurai and ninja, and you have weapons tied to each of the classes. Is really awesome. I'm still a little iffy on, like, I've watched a little bit of play of this, and it's like an open field kind of design. This is like a new thing that, like, Japanese developers are trying out. The last game I remember referring to it as open field, right, was like Final Fantasy 16, where it's not necessarily open world per se, but it is essentially one giant level that sort of evokes that same kind of feeling of being in an open world, and you have a lot of freedom of as to where to go, but ultimately it is still kind of trying to lead you down one particular path. You just have an insane amount of ways to get to that path and tons of different, like, side content you can take on while you're doing it. And I'm not sure how that's going to work for an ARPG like Neo, but that remains to be seen. I'll get my hands on the demo at some point and try it out and maybe let you guys know. Yeah, so this is one that I kind of felt bad for initially, but the more I thought about it, I think that if this conceptually works as well as I think it could, this is probably going to be one of the most exciting games I've played or thought about in a very long time. So from what I could see, right, is the intention is that there's going to be a sort of overarching storyline in this world. You're kind of dropped into a world seed with a number of different players, and these players go to particular environments or like different areas, and you experience the fallout of their actions and therefore have to suffer the consequences of what they do. And it looks like you have an option to actively fix things or make them worse or just leave altogether, which I think is phenomenal. I think conceptually I love everything about that. It's a really cool way to take the asynchronous multiplayer component that a lot of people don't really do anywhere near as much with, and actively making it feel like a connected experience without necessarily having to actually dip into somebody else's game physically. And I love that. I love that from the bottom of my heart. There's everything I love about it. But it could also just be a massive gimmick that means nothing in the grand scheme of things. So that remains to be seen. I'm curious to see what happens, and I will 100% give this a shot at a later time for sure. Yeah, so here's the thing. I kind of really dig the vibe that I'm getting from this game, that it's less straight up Hitman and more evoking kind of like Tomb Raider, Uncharted vibes, because I have been craving a linear action-adventure set-piece driven video game for a while now, because it feels like so many games nowadays are so afraid of doing shit like that because everyone wants to basically create the next huge sandbox of player expression, as it were, which is great and it's cool, but man, there is something about just sitting down and playing just a really dope ass set piece driven video game and just being like, damn, that was fun, and going back and forth. It's got amazing replay value. I love stuff like that. So to see that potentially they're going to have something like that going on, it's going to be less, and that's what it looks like to me. I could be wrong. This could just literally be Hitman with a James Bond skin, and that technically would work and be cool, but it feels if you look at the gameplay, it does not feel like they are focusing on the elements of like stealth and surprise. It is 100% honing in on all of the more action set pieces that happen in the James Bond movie. So to see that translated so well into the game, I'm very pumped for. This is also coming from someone who is not, I would call myself a completely non-fan of 007. I think it's fun. I genuinely find most of those movies really boring, but the games are all sick. I like a good majority of the games. The games have all been really fun. So if this just kind of ends up being another one of those really fun original titles that's using a license, I'm all about it. As for right now, I'm just kind of gonna be like, you know, it's like a cautious optimism for right now. But as of what I've seen, it looked 10 times better than Mind's Eye, and Mind's Eye was that game I was looking forward to be more of a linear action game, so it's good to see that this one is looking as good as it is, you know what I'm saying? Okay, I do not know where to even begin with this one. I myself am a fighting game tourist. The most games I play right now is Grand Blue Fantasy, for the reason that it's a 4-button fighter and I don't have to think very hard, and it has simple inputs that I can just, not necessarily smart control, but simple inputs that I can just literally not have to fucking do quarter circles or anything like that. But I really love Arx's System Works. I like a lot of their games. I'm a fan of Strive. I'm a fan of, I liked Fighters when I played a little bit of that. Grand Blue, obviously. They make good fucking fighting games, and this is probably one of the best looking fighting games they're working on in a very long time. Everything about it's aesthetic, its music, its appeal, the crazy cross tag battle stuff they got going on. I love every singular aspect of it, but it's crazy because like I said, I'm surrounded. I don't know if you know this. I'm surrounded by a lot of people in the FGC. I know actually two of my good friends really, they work with TNS on a lot of things, and they were the ones who I was looking towards and being like, what did they think about it? And both of them thought it was going to be a cool time, but a lot of like MVC 3 players that they're talking to, and just MVC players in general, are kind of weirdly wishy-washy about this. And I sort of get it, but considering the fact that from the small bits and pieces I've heard over the course of the day, it does seem like this is less of a one-to-one tag battle and more of just kind of like a weird take on the formula, and it's like a very straightforward, they talk about it a little bit in the documentary, like this little mini doc they do after the fact, after the reveal trailer, where it's like, do you have to sit there and actually learn 4 characters? But no, you can just dead ass have a captain on your team, play it like a 1v1 game, and not worry about ever having to engage with the tag tactics, which I don't know how that's going to work out. Clearly it's not going to be the case, because tagging is going to be way too powerful with 3 other literal assists you can have on hand. But as of right now, as an outside looking in kind of guy, I am incredibly excited. I hope that this game comes out. I hope it fucking rips. I hope every one of my friends picks it up and loves it. I hope it like sets the world on fire. I really do. I hope it really genuinely ends up being the success that I think it can be, even if that name is a little unfortunate. But regardless, I'm super pumped for Marvel Tokyo and Fighting Souls, and can't wait to see more of it. So yeah, I know there's a couple of games that I missed talking about. I didn't really call out to them because I wasn't very interested in those ones, but like I said, this has probably been one of the most stacked state of plays I have reacted to in quite some time, and I am so happy to see that Sony brought the fucking heat. For me personally, I think that they did an amazing job with this one. I'm very curious to see what they have to show at SGF. I for one reason or another, they are still at SGF, and they also have a state of play. So weirdly enough, them potentially having even more, or kind of like letting the first party stuff maybe sit over there. There is a rumored God of War game that's sort of like a 2.5 Metroidvania that I read about a little bit that may or may not appear at SGF, but we'll see. I also don't know when this video is going to come out. Hopefully it comes out before Friday. We'll see. It is kind of a lot of work to kind of put on someone at the very last minute, because I'm probably going to ask like Wolfen to take this on for me real quick. But yeah, no, I am a big fan of everything I saw, and or large majority of what I saw. And I'd like to know what you guys see, in the comments. Like, what do you guys feel? Do you genuinely agree that this fucking City Play sucked? Which I don't know how you think that. Like, literally, there's a game for, at the very least, a singular title for every person of every walk of life. Like, this was the most varied it had ever been, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. Or you're just like me, and you're like, that fucking State of Play was sick, man. That was so much sick shit to look at. And I was like, yeah. Anyways, much love. Like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Do all your things. Give me engagement. Just give it to me, feed it to me. I love it. All right, everybody. Good night. I say good night because it's 3:40 in the fucking morning for me, but whatever.